Very excited about tonight's show, and I hope you'll join me. We are taking calls, and we are doing live readings with psychic Lorraine Roe. She is a 5-time Emmy award-winning former investigative reporter turned psychic, and I am extremely happy that she's here to share her story tonight to talk about the transition that she made from a career that would otherwise be seemingly the least furthest that you could get from being in the psychic field. Her new book, The Psychic Housewife's Handbook, How to Keep Your Feet on the Ground and Your Head in the Stars, has just been released this year, and I've had the wonderful opportunity to read it, and I am looking forward to sharing it with you tonight. It's an excellent, excellent book. Welcome, Lorraine.
Great to be here. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for joining me. So I really want to share this story of how you were in a field of investigative reporting and how you transitioned into becoming a psychic.
Well, yeah. It's a crazy story. I was a reporter for many years. I think it's been maybe 17 years I was a reporter. And I kind of slowed down at the end of it, decided that I was doing a lot of work and a lot of workaholic stuff, and I ended up doing some meditating and some yoga and having a couple of experiences that felt like they were unusually psychic or something, and it caused me to read more books on the topic. And one day I was at home sitting at my desk in my home office, and someone's dead grandmother appeared to me and started showing me images and telling me things. And it turned out it was a doctor friend of mine. It was his grandmother who was long deceased. And when I told him about some of the imagery I was getting, he completely confirmed it and actually had some of it in a photograph in a family album he had, which I'd, of course, never seen. So it was, that was launched me into this whole other journey.
Mm-hmm. Was it strange for you to, I imagine the mindset of an investigative reporter, any reporter, I would think, but also an investigative reporter, to go from being, I guess you'd have to say you were have to be kind of skeptical and check your sources and really search down the facts to switch into a more intuitive, really trusting things that sometimes don't make so much sense. Have you always been, do you think, experiencing psychic
I don't
abilities?
think it's been completely psychic per se. I would say I've definitely been using my intuition for many years without actually calling it that. I think that really helped me in my career. I talk about that in the book, which is, I had hunches about things that would always kind of turn out when I was working. And looking back now, I'm like, but the full-on psychic thing, that's a little different. That, I always think of psychic ability more. It's intuitive is kind of a knowing for yourself, and psychic is a knowing about other people and situations and places. And in my mind, and the leap that I made was kind of to this place where I would know things about complete strangers that I had no way of knowing. And so, yes, the answer to your question is it was weird. I mean, I was like, okay. And I got information. I remember the funniest thing I got, I was taking a drama class at the time, and there was this big poodle that kept showing up. And I knew it was a former dog of this girl that was in the class. And I told her, I said, there's this dead dog. And she's like, I hated that poodle. It bit me. And I, of course, in my naivete, thought everybody wanted this information. And as we all come to find out, as you become psychic, you didn't necessarily even want it, So,
what was the reaction of your colleagues when you decided to come out as a psychic?
Well, some of them are still very good friends of mine, and they're totally supportive. And I think some of them are just like, that's nice. I haven't had a lot of in-depth conversations with some people in news that I used to be, cohorts with, because I don't know that they know what to make of it. But by the same token, I think everybody knows I was a pretty upstanding reporter, and that I because of my ethics and because of the way I worked, I think it's given them, second thoughts about, is this stuff real or not?
Yeah, and so when you go from, following your intuitive hits, so to speak, when you're following a story, because I hear that a lot, actually, that people have those kinds of experiences and they're not quite sure what to call them. They just call them hunches, or I just have a gut feeling. When you switched over to the word psychic, was it actually hard for you to put yourself with that label, the word psychic?
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like kind of coming out of the closet, because the word psychic, it just has all these connotations with it, right? I mean, it's, the person who's a shyster. It's the person who wears a turban and looks at crystal balls. It's, but when I had the opportunity to know Echo Bodine, who is a psychic, but is probably one of the most normal people I know as well, just one of the very grounded, earthy people, and before I was psychic, and it kind of made me relax. It was like, gosh, she seems pretty normal to me. I mean, she knows things that I couldn't possibly know, but she seems really normal. And what I've discovered is that being psychic doesn't make you a freak. It actually makes you more of who you are, because you're following your intuition, and you do trust what you see and hear, energetically as opposed to just physically.
Yeah, I bet. And I know you have a family. So how was this transition like for your family, your husband and kids?
They're great about it. I think what's been nice is I am remarried, and my husband has been with me on this journey, because he and I worked together when we were both news people, and he knew me in a different realm. And when we got married, I had become psychic, and he's been going along on the trip the whole time. And my two older kids have been exposed to me as a psychic, and they're psychic. And my little 5-year-old, he's a very psychic boy too. So they are all. It's kind of just a matter of, it's just a matter of daily life for us, that we have intuitive feelings, see ghosts, decide, intuitively we don't want to do something, we want to do something else. We play with angel cards. It's all part of an integrated part of our lives now, so it's not so ooh, la, la, out of the realm of imagination.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and was it like this before? Were your kids showing signs of having intuitive psychic abilities while you were working as a reporter?
They were. In fact, I had a wicker rocker that was passed down through my family, and it was a little tiny kid's rocker that was probably 100 years old, and it was in my kid's room, and it had gotten broken. The arm was broken, and my daughter at the time, I think, was 3 or 4, and she had said that an old man, and she described him, came to her and was really mad that the rocker was broken. And the way she described it, I knew it was my grandfather, because he was very, very particular, and I knew he was really mad that I had not fixed the rocker.
Well, I'm fascinated with your story. I love your book. I am just intrigued by, the place where you come from to the place that you are. And I've interviewed a lot of psychics. I've had, a lot of personal friends of mine are in that field. And it's really interesting because, to come from certain backgrounds, to find out where they come from, how these things manifested in their life, and their stories are always really intriguing to me. So we're going to be talking, everybody who's listening right now, we're going to be talking tonight about some of the techniques that Lorraine teaches in her book, and she's going to be sharing some techniques about grounding, how to deal with certain energetic entities in your life. So this is a great show to call in, and we're going to be taking calls in just a few moments to ask your questions about not only what's going on in your life, or if you want to know what's going to happen with your relationships or your work. So, because I was intuition, and it's a great show to call in to ask questions about how do you ground yourself? How do you work with certain energetic instances that manifest in your life? So think about your questions and call in. Send me an in quick over achieveradio.com, or you can call in live and speak to Lorraine and I at 888-235-7374, and we'll be happy to take your call. So, Lorraine, is it okay if we go to the lines now and take a couple questions from callers?
Sure, that's fine. And I'm going to put your number on my Facebook right now, too. So.
Oh, great. Yes, everybody, we are on Facebook. Lorraine's on Facebook, and I'm on Facebook. So if you'd like to join us, please feel free to add us. First, we have Aileen from Pennsylvania. I hope I'm saying that right. Hello.
Hi. Yes, hi.
Do you have a question for Lorraine?
Well, yes, I did have a question about my life. I was wondering if there's anything I could know. My husband at the beginning of June said he wants to end the marriage, and I was just wondering, I wasn't thinking that it needed to be ended. I thought there's enough there to work on, but I was, there's just all sorts of things going on. Is there any information I could have about whether or not it'll end?
Yes, it will end. It will end. But I see it as a wake-up call and a good thing because you've gotten very comfortable with things being just okay, and you actually can have a lot more out of it.
A lot more out of my life, or? Yes.
Out of your life and out of a relationship.
But it won't be this relationship. It'll be a new one?
No, it won't. I don't think it will. Not to, I'm not sugarcoating it much, but I know you're still pretty shocked by this, but yeah. It's actually a huge wake-up call for you because you're here to do more. I mean, you got a lot of life force, and you've kind of put a lot of stuff on ice for yourself. And this will actually work out really, really well when you get over the initial shock of it. Wow.
Is there any clue as to what I'm supposed to be doing with all this new life force freeing up?
Well, it's a good time to get some new hobbies. You're going to start doing, you've got a lot going on. I see sewing or stitching or something where you're working with your hands. Hello?
Well, I did that in the past, but okay.
Yeah, like reinvigorating that because it's got a new energy to it, and letting divine come through your hands because you got a lot of creativity there that's kind of been again put on the shelf. Mm-hmm. And that's part of what's going to do some healing for you. They're making some, remarks about sewing. It's all sewn up for you, and it's going to thread your life. And there's a lot of ways symbolically and energetically. If you start doing your sewing again, it's going to help you heal.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you for calling.
Thanks.
All right,
good luck.
Bye.
It's not always what we want to hear, is it, Lorraine? It goes into other areas where people just don't they don't hear what they want to hear.
No, but I think they hear what they know they need to hear, don't they? I mean, a lot of times I'm hopeful that people are open to knowing that it resonates at some level.
I like the way you put that. Sometimes relationships have to end, and I think we see that a lot, for new energy to come in. And when people start to grow into different directions and they're meant to do big things, relationships have a way of shedding because we end up matching, don't you think, energetically, who we're supposed to be with in order to facilitate those destinies?
Yep, I agree. I mean, totally. And I think when you're, that was kind of a hard reading because, it's not, when you're in the initial stages of the shedding, it's very hard. It's very hard. But when you're moving along and you look back, I think you say, oh, that was the defining moment where I really decided to go for my life.
Yeah, words of wisdom. Next we have Jay from Alberta. Hi, Jay. How are you? Good to hear from you.
Well, thank you very much. It's good to hear from you again, too. And Lorraine, it's good to hear from you, too. You know what? I don't have any psychic questions, but I asked both of your parents, right? And you have kids. I just wondered, what do you do to raise your kids to keep their own psychic abilities keep growing? And when do you know when to, stop teaching them about it and just let them go on their own, and maybe before they lose it, before they're teens and stuff like that. So I wonder if you could respond to those questions, please.
That's a great question. Lorraine, you want to start?
Well, My daughter's 13, and she still has abilities. And I think you can, if you are open to it and your family's open to it, I think that protects their abilities a lot more than when a child is taught that it's not okay to have the abilities. But one of the things that I do to keep the environment open is we just talk about it. We talk about, we'll do an angel deck spread, or we'll say, hey, what happened today? Or if they say, hey, I just saw a ghost, we'll talk about it, so that there's a feeling of acceptance, and there's also a feeling that, hey, I do have these abilities, I do see these things, and it's real.
That's good advice. I have to share with you guys and everybody listening, I had, considering the work that I do as an intuitive, it's kind of along the same lines, and I do similar work. And, I had just finished writing a chapter for Dr. Karen Goody's book that's coming out next spring called Kids Who See Ghosts. And I had been kind of in the throes of that writing creative mix for that work. And my own son, who's 9 at this point in his life, had really never said anything to me before about seeing ghosts, and he had never said, he just really has just quiet, never really said anything. And one day we're driving down the road, and I wrote about this in the book, and I said, he turns to me and he goes, Mom, I see ghosts. I said, what? And I was convinced that he had heard me talking on the phone to one of my colleagues or something, but he hadn't. And he said, yeah, because recently it was funny. And Jay, I'm so glad you brought this topic up. Recently he had just asked to sleep with one of those eye masks, and I thought that was unusual, but I sleep with one, so I figured, okay, maybe it's just he sees me sleeping with one. And he explained to me in the car while we were driving that they come to him at night before he falls asleep, and they scare him. He gets scared by it. It's not that they're trying to scare him on purpose. It's that he's scared because he doesn't understand it. And I think that's really common with children, is that they see these things, they feel it, whether they see it visually or they sense it intuitively. They don't understand how to interpret it, because most often parents don't bring up this topic unless it comes up through the children. And it's funny because I laugh at myself, because considering the work that I do, you would think, and I do talk to my kids about this stuff. However, I've never really gone into that arena because I figured I didn't want to feed it unless they were feeling it naturally. And I think that's an important point, too, for parents, is that it's a careful balance between, planting the seeds of them expecting to see it, and that, or having them show that ability on their own. So I've always been a strong advocate for letting kids develop this on their own, naturally. But we did have this great conversation in the car. And once, I asked him why he hadn't told me this before. And he said, well, I thought you would think that it was strange. And I laughed really loud because considering my life, it's really funny that he thought I, of all people, would think it was strange. But really, kids have this very different perspective. And they need to know that it's okay and it's a safe thing to ask. So I would, my advice to parents, because I do get asked this question a lot. A lot of people seem to be doing it more and more, and I think that's a whole other topic, but I think it's related to the times that we're in and the things that we're going through collectively on the planet together as a species. And I think that we're seeing more and more of an acceleration of consciousness that's showing up more and more in our children. So it's going to be more common that we see these things develop. And, just staying open to conversations and making it normal, I think was the best thing, because now he's not afraid of it anymore, and he understands it. And I taught him, to call in the angels before he goes to sleep. I had done a show a while back with a fabulous person who had given me, and everybody listening, the advice of, praying before going to bed. It's something very simple that, even if we're religious or not, that we can do to set the intention to have a positive energy surround us. Calling in the angels, reading something beautiful, saying a prayer, looking at the moon and wishing, or something, whatever your beliefs are. And he ends up falling asleep a lot easier now than he did before. But again, I think it really is just dependent on, when the children start to show the signs of having these things. And now that he knows I know, I am hearing all kinds of stories come out and all kinds of things, and it's a fascinating journey. It really, really is. Jay, do you have children? Have you had this experience happen to you?
No, but when my soulmate comes along, yes, definitely I'll have children in the future for sure. But I have a cousin right now, actually, who I know is a very spiritual person, and I got her some animal cards. And it's very, very simple. So she can do readings, basically. Just very, very simple. It's got a short message on the back, and it's a kitty cat deck. And so she can do readings. And, right now, I probably will see her in probably October for Canadian Thanksgiving and see how she's doing. But I really just see how she's progressing with her abilities. Because I know when I was down there, she was doing lots of stuff, but because she's growing into a teenager, she may lose that. And I'm just nurturing that, and just if she wants to talk about it, she can talk about it. So that's where I'm at with my cousin right now. So she can see angels. I see angels, but she talks to angels, and they give her messages. But she's getting some apparitions that come to her, but she doesn't. They're scaring her because she can feel them. She can't see them, but she can feel them. So it's a very, very interesting time for children right now, as you said.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for everybody. Lorraine, what do you think about teenagers? I don't have any personally, so I'm wondering, how do you work with them?
In general, or?
I mean, as far as this goes, because I know from my own personal experience with my own life, once I went into, teenagehood, I didn't want anything to do with this. I really just kind of laid it down and said, no, it makes me weird, makes me strange, makes me stand apart from other people, and I'm all about fitting in and all that other stuff, just typical teenage stuff. And do you have teenagers that come and work with you?
Well, I have a teenage daughter who's 13, and so it's been great to watch because we talk about you don't really go out and say this in like a big group of people that you're psychic. You have to really choose your spots.
You mean you don't get a neon sign and plant it in your front yard?
Womp, womp, womp. And so, and she, to her credit, is really holding on to these abilities, I think. I mean, she will talk about, she sees colors around people and what colors that she sees. She will talk about when she sees a ghost or when she has a bad feeling about a place or a person. I mean, she made a joke, last month because she said, I think I'm doing too good a job at manifesting. And I said, why? And she goes, because every teacher I said I don't like so far has quit the school.
I think what you did with your investigative reporting is very useful in dealing with that time frame for people. If you can teach people how to use their intuitive abilities, regardless of what they choose to do, maybe for a teenager they would relate it to choosing friends or deciding on which way to go work-wise or career-wise, or they're thinking about where they're going to go to college and what they want to do, and a lot of different things in the mix. And if we can develop a way to encourage the intuitive side to come out, especially through those years, I think it would be very transforming and very life-changing for people because, Lorraine, like I said, reading your story in the book was extremely validating that you can be a very high-profile, very successful person and still have psychic and intuitive abilities that actually enhance whatever it is you decide to do in life. And I think if parents can find whatever it is that their teenager likes to do or whatever direction they're heading, and just somehow find a creative way to weave it into whatever it is they're doing, because those really are psychic and intuitive abilities. When we follow our hunches or when a name pops up in our mind and we follow that lead, so to speak, I know that's certainly helped me many times manifesting the different things that I do. And even though I wouldn't classify them as so-called psychic, they are definitely intuitive. And if we can learn to keep nurturing that, it only gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So, when picking a partner or a boyfriend or whatever, when we're in those years, I think that's really something to, pursue in somehow, some way, and more in depth. Jay, great question. Do you have any other questions for Lorraine and I?
Not really. Just, well, sure, I got one question. The Earth is really changing right now, and lots of things seems like they're accelerating. So I just wondered what you get to take on, actually, on the weather, because, the weather where I live, it's been cool, And seems like I think we might have some crop failures this year. I just wonder what it's like down there where you guys live, and what's your...
Oh, you want our 2 cents on this topic? Well, I'll let you go first, Lorraine, because I tend to stand on a soapbox.
Oh, thanks. You know, I'm local, not global. I really don't address this stuff. Not because I don't have a gut feeling about it or intuition about it, but I guess I focus on people's change within themselves that reflects outward, and which doesn't mean we don't need to change our behavior a bit as towards the environment, but I think we're in a real shift right now, and I think it can go either way. And I think the more that we embrace our intuition and our psychic abilities, the more we're going to be internally guided to do the right thing by the earth.
Okay. I have to agree with that, because, you know, it really does come back to being about us. And I've said this so many times on the show. It's really about looking inward and seeing what needs to change in order for the outward to change. Now, the weather, I really feel that we are contributing to it on some level with our activities and our lack of respect for the earth. And but I also believe there are some cyclic patterns that are coming into play that we really just either, one, we don't know about because we haven't studied them long enough. There's not enough data or information available. Or two, it's just not shared. I have had a lot of people come on the show who talk about a lot of things and how the pyramid structure and the bigger schemes of life happen. And you really just have to follow your gut through that. And I think what goes back to what we were talking about with the teenagers, you really have to just develop an intuitive hit on what feels right with you. When you're reading through different theories, what different people feel is going on in the world, or, you know, whatever information, there's a lot of information out there. You really need an intuitive discernment to guide you through these things in order to kind of weed out what doesn't call to you and what does, so that you can connect the dots yourself and figure out what it is that's going on in this world today. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of questionable things going on, but I agree with Lorraine, and I think once you bring yourself back to yourself and you sit inside yourself and you ground yourself and you get comfortable with your intuition, no matter what you do or who you are or what you believe, then you start to mesh with what is going on in the world, and you can feel the patterns. I mean, how many people get headaches before, you know, low pressure systems come in, or if it starts to rain? I mean, you know about 24 hours in advance if something's going to happen. Or maybe you're sitting outside and you can just feel like it's going to rain even if there's no clouds in the sky. I mean, those are psychic intuitive hits. And I think once you develop that and you encourage the development of that, you're going to be able to feel these cycles, and you're going to be able to feel them regardless of whether they're man-made or not. And I think that's what we're really all about as a species. I think that's getting back to our roots, so to speak, with our abilities and how we function and how we move out into the world as human beings.
Well, and I think making it fun. Well, I think if you're going to answer some of these questions, it's like, what are you going to do on a daily basis if you're going to be present to if you believe it's a problem, what are you going to do to be present to the problem? And I mean, I have these intellectual ideas about what I want to do, like to recycle and to save fuel and all this stuff. And I mean, I hate smart cars. I look at them and I go, they're ugly and they're death traps, so no thanks. But I drive a motorcycle. And part of my point here is that there's ways to conserve fuel. I mean, I have built my life within a 10-mile radius of my house, pretty much. I mean, my kids' school, my grocery store, my gym, blah, 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 my coffee shop. And so part of my conservation has been turned out to be just sticking close to home. And the other part is driving a motorcycle, because I save a lot of gas. And I mean, I think there's ways that the universe will allow you creative contributions to perceived problems that can be fun and not too serious.
I like that. I like that. I think that's a perfect way to put it, because it's kind of like being in debt. You know, you have bills to pay. You know, you could argue the bigger system if you want, but what it comes down to really is just being responsible with your debt, paying it off, moving on with your life, and staying focused on what's really important. And so being conservative, going green, being more conscious of your contribution to the problem is definitely part of taking responsibility for your own actions. And that, again, that's going back into yourself to really know who you are at deep levels, to be responsible for your actions, stop blaming everybody else for what goes on in your life, and just taking the reins and going with it. You know, I think if we all did that on some level, and we taught our children to do that, life would be a much better place. I really do. Great question, Jay. Thank you so much for calling in. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Hey, great conversation. Awesome questions next time. So take care. Many blessings to you both.
Thank you. Many blessings to you, too. Next, we have Connie from Indiana. Hi, Connie. Thanks for holding.
Hi. I just want to tell you a little story. You know, you was talking about children that sees ghosts and everything. I have an 8-year-old nephew and a 7-year-old niece, and they kept saying that they saw a little girl in the house. And we just kind of blew it off, and we didn't, because all of the family has some kind of psychic ability, but we just thought that they overheard us talking. But anyways, he was playing in the house, and he got his mom's cell phone, and he took a picture. And he came out, and he says, "This is Emily. It's a little girl, and she looks real." He says, "Yeah, she let me take her picture to prove to you guys that she's here." And it's a beautiful picture. I mean, we downloaded it on the computer and sent it to all the family and everything, saying it's a new family member, and everybody got a real big kick out of it. But they do see, people from the other side. I just thought you'd get a kick out of that story.
Wow, that's great. That's a great story.
But it's,
I think that's fabulous. And Lorraine, do you have any hits on that?
Well, I don't know. The only thing I'll say is look at the great job that child did of sticking with what he was really seeing and then getting physical proof of it. I mean, that's great. He would not be blown off, and the spirit was like also helping.
Right. But one side, she looks like a little girl standing in front of you, and the other side is a bright light.
Wow.
And even in back of her, it's a bright light.
Wow. That's awesome.
We didn't know.
Connie, have you seen things like this throughout your life?
Yes. My daughter is better than what I am. She sees them all the time. And which just kind of scares her. She thought she was going crazy for the longest time, and finally, she's just accepted the fact and talks to them.
Well, I love that. It's like submission to what is, How old were you when you first started to see these kinds of things, Connie?
I was in 3rd grade when the other side came to me. It scared me. I mean, I thought I was absolutely going crazy, and then this is when I was a little girl, I crawled in bed with my older sister, and she looked up, and she seen them coming in, too. I mean, they was dressed all in black, but you could see their faces, and they was coming to me.
And how did your parents react? Did you share with your parents when that happened?
They kind of made fun of me, because they didn't want me to go overboard. They didn't want, I guess, they didn't want me to snap, because I was upset that I seen this and I didn't know what was going on. So I snapped out of it. I was fine, and then when I got older, then, I could see stuff, and it's like a big picture show that anything that they want to send me from the other side is like watching a movie.
Yeah.
Yep. So they don't come as often as I would like for them, because once you get a taste of this, you sit around and you think, okay, I want more and want more, but, you just have to be patient.
Lorraine, let's address that for a second. When somebody has these experiences and they enjoy it, is there a way to invite them in, or is there a way that we shut them off? How do you look at that?
Yes, I think that part of the thing about becoming, a psychic housewife is taking the innate abilities you already have and saying to the universe, I'm willing to expand these. And I think seeing ghosts is part of those abilities. I think there's a lot more that can come in. And yes, when somebody's having limited experiences, I think maybe something's holding them back a little bit, because I think if you invite in a lot of experiences, it'll just show up.
So what could Connie do? What could she do if she wants to have these experiences and she's open to helping? How would she deal with that?
Well, one of the things that I suggest is if you feel like there's blocks or something bugging you, write it all on a piece of paper and burn it. Take it outside, put it in a pot, and burn it, and go, I give this back to the universe. And so it's basically, if you're feeling like I'm kind of scared, or when I was a child, people said things that made me feel ashamed, something that's blocking you from having your full abilities, write it on a piece of paper and give it back to the universe, and see if that doesn't clear up some things. Because a lot of times we have stuff from childhood, or we have stuff current that keeps us from really wanting to have the full experience, because we're afraid of where it'll take us.
Connie, what do you think? Have you tried any of this stuff?
I called upon the angels to cut the cords to all the negativity and everything, or all the blockages that I have had. And I thought I've done this, but maybe there's still something that I'm hanging on to that I'm not aware of. So maybe I'll just write everything down, like she said, and burn it. Because I write letters to the angels, all the time, but I haven't tried burning them.
Do you meditate? I'm sorry, Connie, do you meditate? Because I know in Lorraine's book, she talks a lot about how meditation has helped to clear that mental space that I think is a big key in any kind of communication.
Right. My sisters and I get together once a month and do a heavy meditation. I think we should do it more than just once a month, but everybody's so busy that we get together when we can. So, yeah, I do meditate, even on my own, but I don't, when you have more than one, it's a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Lorraine, do you have any comments on that?
Well, Connie, I think for you to stop thinking about the form things have to take, and to surrender the form, and to really quiet yourself down on a daily basis will allow more of this stuff to come through for you. And also, I think I'm going to tell you, with your permission, that the angels really want you to know you are safe and you are going to be taken care of. And so that if you do invite more information in, you will probably be used as a channel to tell people some things, but you will be protected as well. And I think part of what's the deeper fear for you is that you may move into be asked to do some things that you don't really want to do, but it would all be out of a service place, and it wouldn't be anything that would be harmful to you.
Okay.
You get
Has that been the case for you, Connie? Have you felt some kind of insecurity as far as safety goes with this kind of stuff? Because some people do. A lot of people do. It's very common.
Well, in my younger days, I got into the black magic. Mm-hmm. And I was very good at it. I'm not bragging, because I'm glad I'm on the white side now. And I had, now he says he was the right-hand servant of the devil. And he said, I will be watching you. I think this is what subconsciously I'm scared that something negative is going to come in.
Yeah, and it's not, you have every right to those feelings, but I'm completely getting that you're incredibly taken care of. And that if you will kind of step forward in faith that this is a gift from God and you will be taken care of, I think things are going to flow more for you, and it's going to become more fun for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I also want to add, too, that if you set the intent that you are surrounded by white light and you are extremely protected and nothing is allowed into that space. And you can even do it for your whole home, and I do this often, or I advise people to do this, just to clear and surround your entire house or your entire property line, and even a mile outward from that in white light, and make it very, very clear and set the intent, even say it out loud, that you do not allow anything that is not of the light into your sacred space. And you claim that space, and it's my understanding that it just won't happen. If you set that intention and you make that clear, then that is exactly what you're going to get. And these are the kind of questions I was hoping for tonight, because Lorraine, your book goes into a lot of this, the Psychic Housewife's Handbook. She talks about this stuff. What do people, who go grocery shopping and do laundry and drive their kids back and forth to their sports and watch their grandchildren for a living, how do they deal with these bigger, more spiritual topics that really, really can get pretty in-depth? So I would try that, Connie, too. The next time you do, start with daily meditation and just keep surrounding yourself and your family and your home with that white light, light white candles, and just kind of make it a beautiful space, very sacred. And I guarantee pretty much that that's going to change and shift the perspective, and let go of any of that fear, and try doing what Lorraine suggested, writing those things down and burning them and letting them go. I would just write that whole experience down and burn it and let that whole experience go.
I didn't really realize that this was really happening until I, got on the phone with you guys. I didn't realize this was, I guess everything happens for a reason. But as far as grounding myself, now I wonder if I'm doing this right. I put my feet on the ground, I center myself, and I bring the white light all through my body. Am I doing this right, grounding myself?
Yeah, if you're calling in grounding, a couple of things that are simple grounders are you can just lie on the ground and just say you're grounding yourself. It doesn't have to be a big ritual thing. You can eat beef. Going to the movies helps. Things that kind of put you in your body and to really experience being in your body is what is grounding. And also, I believe exercise and being in nature can really help with that too.
Yeah, I second all of those. I think those are really basic things. And if you are doing something that, if you're really high out there, if your head's in the stars, so to speak, and you don't feel your feet on the ground at all, which really does happen for a lot of people, movement, getting back in your body, taking care of yourself with nutrition and exercise, drinking your body weight in water, making sure that you really keep those things good, getting plenty of sleep, the basics. We're going back to the basics, guys. It's really important. And especially now as we move in towards the 2012 and all of the things that people are talking about now, regardless of what you believe, we really are going into higher vibrational energy as a world, as a planet, because of where we are located in the universe according to the galactic alignments and the astrology, and all of that stuff is very real. Even if you don't understand it, I would highly suggest that everybody go out and at least Google it, look up some information, find somebody that you can read, and just educate yourself. And that can even be a form of grounding, educating yourself, getting some facts, being like an investigative reporter, Lorraine.
Yay!
And kind of going out and finding what feels right for you. Once again, we're back to that discernment. Grounding can take for some people, it's very hard. For other people, it's very easy. Some people are too grounded and need to let go of some of that so that they can go up and understand some of those higher things. But we are all being affected by what's happening now. Regardless of where we're at in our lives, regardless of what we believe, we are all feeling it because we are all going through it together. So it's going to manifest in a variety of different ways. And so I really think that, what's going to happen is more and more of us, regardless of age, are going to have more and more of these experiences, whether it's multidimensional, spiritual, whether we see ghosts or we, know who's calling on the phone before we pick it up, or whatever those hits are. We're actually in a really fabulous time right now for people to be able to experience these things and learn from them and grow from them and realize that we really are multidimensional beings, that we really aren't just here, to pay bills and go through the routine of life and then die at the end and leave all our money to our kids. I mean, we really were put on in this place for something much bigger, much more grand. So, and as we each go through that and find our own little quirks as to how we're going to handle those energy patterns, it's really a celebratory thing. And I think celebration is something we need to get back in touch with also. Celebrating when our kids see something fantastic or when we have a really powerful dream and we share it with people, however we do that. And so, I don't know, I hope something has helped you along these lines and that you can take something away from this conversation with Lorraine and I and share it with those you love and apply it to your life somehow.
You guys have been great because it was confirmation I was supposed to call in because I'm getting goosebumps.
Yep, that's it.
That's it. I'll have to go and listen to the archive and take all this information in.
Great. Well, thanks, Connie. Thanks for calling in with that. It was definitely something that sparked a great conversation. Next, we have Renee from Pennsylvania. Hi, Renee.
Hi, Hillary. Hi, Lorraine. It went right down my head. It's a very good show. And I wanted to ask a question, but I don't know if it's already been asked. But I also want to ask a question about myself. One, I've heard on a couple of people, like one would be a J, one would be an H, and possibly others. Which would be the best for me that would get the most thorough healing accomplished in my body, mind, and spirit? That I could do at one time.
Great question. Lorraine, you want to take a hit at this first?
Okay, I just want to make sure I heard it clearly. It's between J name, two healers of J that are named J or H?
A man that is a J, a female that is an H. Which would be the best one? Because one will do more than one time, and the other I might be able to get it all done. I don't know if...
I guess J.
Ah, the man.
Yeah.
Do you think he could heal everything at one time and very thorough because he's not an intuitive?
It's about his energy. It's not necessarily even what he's going to do. It's not going that he has to tell you anything. It's what he's going to do. It's very powerful. He's very powerful. And actually, your man stuff, the stuff you have about men, he could help you with that.
Oh, he would probably see it in my energy.
Yeah, he's got that male energy that it would be helpful for you, I believe.
And what about the lady with the H? How is maybe if I wouldn't do her right now, how would she be helpful to me in either healing or intuitive work or whatever?
Well, she's good too. She's very soft. She's very gentle. The other guy, the thing about the man is he's going to work with some of your male issues, and you need some help there. And there's no reason not to consider both. Because it's the yin and the yang. They both have something to offer you.
So I can do this. I was told by somebody that there would be money, me finding a backpack. I'd be going farther from my house than I have for a long time because I have a physical problem. Otherwise, I run around all over. I would be going about 4 or 5 blocks. Do you feel it would be this Friday or Saturday? And would I be safe? I might be able to call a cab to take me back or get there. And if there's any landmarks that you see specifically, maybe a street, a corner, because it was supposed to be like in a shopping center. So this way,
let me just stop you. Are you? Here's the thing. You're kind of going heavy on psychics right now, right?
Well, my spirit guides are trying to put out something so that I could have the money that I need to take care of myself. And then as I get better, then I will be able to do everything, and I won't be so afraid because I have intuition too that's worked. But because of all this stuff going on, it's getting a little cloudy, and I want to develop it.
Let's stop here, Lorraine. I feel like you have a really important message coming through. Let's get that out now.
Well, yeah, I don't like the message you're getting, and I'll tell you why. Because it's very, very specific, but it's based out of fear stuff, And I feel like because you've been in fear, you're in fear. Other entities are coming in to try and take advantage of you in that way. And my sense is that you need to get back on solid ground here with faith and light and calling in beings of highest consciousness so that you're getting some good messages. Because what you're telling me, when you told me this information, it felt like it was a bad psychic talking to you, like a psychic who didn't have good intentions or didn't have good information. So I believe that you are psychic and that you do have good spirit guides, but you're getting some information from places that aren't necessarily of highest vibration. And
I have to second that. I feel the same thing. And also, what I think is important, Renee, is grounding. I mean, the more grounded we are in our lives, the more we can discern through those messages that are of higher intent and are not of higher intent.
Right. And the money thing, that is something it's not something that you have to go do. It's kind of a place you have to be first. It's not a scavenger hunt. It's a centering yourself and grounding yourself and calling in abundance first and foremost.
Well, I have called in abundance. It's just that I know I'm going through some things, and I know some things that are going in me, and I've been trying to keep that from happening, but I guess because I'm not getting certain things I need right now, and there's also some tears, which I've known about. I'm working to clear that up, but it's not as easy to do when you're not my vibration is not as high as it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you know what? There's a real opportunity here just to re-surrender your willingness to have a lot of light come in and heal some places in you, and to also not allow the darkness to get the upper hand. And I really see it can be a positive thing. It's just a matter of kind of stepping back a little bit, slowing down a little bit, and just asking for more of that light to come in.
Okay, so you don't think that's a good idea?
I don't think they're telling you the truth. Whoever's talking to you isn't telling you quite the truth. They're telling you it's like a shiny penny, but it appeals, but it's not going to be there when you go looking for it.
Sometimes you can get caught on these wild goose chases when we go to a lot of different psychics and try to find information. I would go back to this archive, Renee, and I would listen to what Lorraine and I have talked about and the other people who've called in and have shared, because it's really about going back within yourself. You have to always step back to yourself. Trust what comes from your own heart, and it's not always about, because it's kind of what I keep seeing when you're talking about that scenario is like a carrot being dangled in front of you, trying to kind of keep you moving and keep you looking and keep you wondering and keep you kind of turning around in circles, really not getting anywhere. And if money issues are a problem, then one of the things I think people really have to get back to is just getting back to the basics, setting yourself up on a payment plan to get your debt paid off, dealing with things on a really logical, grounded level, because money is about foundation. It's just like your physical body. If you have issues with money, you probably have issues with your physical body. Anything physical probably has some kind of dysfunction going on, and it's really about, you can take and isolate any relationship with anything and take a look at it on a more microcosmic kind of lens, so to speak, and see where healing needs to be taking place. And as you do that, you change the entire big picture eventually. But you have to focus in on one little thing. So if money, I think what's coming up here, which is interesting, and we're kind of running out of time with the show, but I think what's interesting is the money aspect keeps coming up for you. You keep wanting to pursue that relationship, that healthier relationship with money. And so I would take it as a symbolic notation to what and where you need to start from. You need a starting point in your healing process. And if financially is where you need to heal, then take financial healing, grab the reins and go for it, and just keep going until it's done. And then look at the physical aspect. If your body has anything that needs healing, take it, isolate it, look at it, and just focus on nothing else but fixing and healing that yourself. We're moving into a time, guys, everybody listening, we're moving into a time where taking responsibility back for ourselves is the key. It's a major key, okay? It's not about going out and finding other people to fix us, although help is not such a bad idea, but when we begin depending on people to guide us and to lead us and to tell us which way to go, that's when we give our power away and we hand it over to somebody else and say, okay, you're in charge of me. And that's not the case. That's not what higher consciousness is all about. Higher consciousness is about claiming that power back and moving forward in whatever way needs be. So, Renee, I send you love and blessing, and thank you so much for this question, because I'm sure in asking, this has helped other people who are listening who may have similar questions. Does that resonate with you? I don't want you to get off the line without feeling some sense of, little nuggets someplace.
I don't know, because I know why I'm in the situation. I never had money problems before. I could always get a job.
Yeah. Well, this is what I would do, because we have to we're going off the air. I would go back and listen to this archive and see what triggers you, what you feel coming in, and what kind of little, psychic and intuitive hits you get when you go back and listen to it. Thanks, Renee. Thanks so much for calling. That was a wonderful question. Lorraine, so where can people find you?
PsychicHousewives.com.
Buy the book, guys. Buy the book. It's an excellent book. It's got a lot of power-packed information. The Psychic Housewives Handbook. It's on my website, HillaryRaimo.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can find Lorraine on Facebook. Do it. Just trust me. This is a great book. A lot of really, really wonderful, practical information. Thanks so much for joining me, Lorraine. It was fabulous having you here.
Oh, thank you, and thanks for being a great host. I appreciate it.
And for everybody else who had questions, for those of you who are still on the line, you may email me at hillary@hillaryraimo.com, and I will be happy to respond to you if you are seeking any kind of assistance with any issues. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.